I'm striving to get rich. That's why I always went 2 years without buying shoes and feet. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in. And the news has dropped. The Bears have finally selected their head coach. The Bears have hired Colts defensive coordinator Mack Eberflus to be the next head coach in Chicago. But before I get into my thoughts on that, make sure you guys leave this video a like, as that always helps the channel to grow. And click the subscribe button and notification bell so you will not miss a single video. Well, Mack Eberflus is a guy that I personally did not think the Bears were going to hire. I thought the Bears were going to go somewhere on the offensive side of the ball, especially when you have a young quarterback like Justin Fields in the fold, but the Bears decided to go a different way. They decided to go on the defensive side of the ball, and they hired defensive coordinator Mack Eberflus. Now, this was Ryan Poles' decision. The organization led the decision to him, and he went his own way and hired Mack Eberflus. Now, just to get a little bit of a background on Mack Eberflus, he's been a Colts defensive coordinator since 2018. He took over for the Colts after a 2017 season where they were 30th in points per game. He led that defense to be 8th in points per game with 21.2 in 2018, 23.3 in 2019, which ranked 18th, 22.9 in 2020, which ranked 11th, and also 21.5 this past season, which had the Colts ranked 10th. Now, Eberflus is going to be running a 4-3 defense. That is something a lot different than what the Bears have been running. They've been running a 3-4 defense for the majority of the last couple of seasons, either under Vic Fangio, Chuck Pagano, and under Sean Desai. Mack Eberflus's base defense is a 4-3, but I believe personally it should be easier transitions. As we know, Quinn and Mack both play the end spots. They're going to have to shore up defensive tackle Eddie Goldman. We sure don't know what they're going to do with Akeem Hicks or not, but we have Bilal Nichols and we have Blackman that have had some really solid seasons, and I believe Roquan will still be successful at that middle linebacker spot because he's been one of the better middle linebackers in the game today. So I think Roquan will probably still play that middle Mack linebacker. So I believe will be a seamless transition. Now, the Bears are still going to have to shore up some things on the defensive side of the ball. I believe Eberflus can be a very good coach and have this Bears defense still up to snuff. Now, even though, like I said earlier, I still believe the Bears should have went offense. I still believe the Bears should have got an offensive guy as the head coach, especially with Justin Fields being so young and him still needing some ropes to develop. It is going to be interesting to see who the Bears hire at that offensive coordinator spot. But nonetheless, Mack Eberflus is now the guy in Chicago. And all accounts are saying he is a very good teacher. He is very organized and a good communicator with very good attention to detail, which is something that this Bears roster needs. They need a solid leader. They need somebody who is going to be stern. They need somebody who's going to communicate things well with the players. And it's going to be probably a change of scenery from what the Bears organization has seen the past couple of years over Matt Nagy. And as we know, Matt Nagy had his way of doing things. And Eberflus, I believe, is going to be a much needed change in this locker room for the Chicago Bears. And it is going to be a much needed change with the leadership and how this team goes. Now, Matt Eberflus is going to be a more stern guy, I believe, over Matt Nagy. Eberflus is going to pay attention to more of the details, and I think he does a very good job of getting his players in the best positions to succeed, something we have seen Matt Nagy in previous struggle with. Eberflus, I believe, is a guy who can succeed as the Bears head coach, but I think a lot of his success is who is going to come in and be the offensive coordinator. Because I believe Eberflus is a very good defensive mind. I believe he can teach defense very well. I believe that he can come in and keep this defense afloat while the offense still has some developing to do. because I believe the offense is going to have a lot more young pieces, because I believe Allen Robinson is going to be gone out the door. You still have a second-year guy in Justin Fields. David Montgomery is still young. You still have an offensive line who is relatively young. So I can see a difference of where they're going to go defensively, especially since all of their main core pieces on this roster are on the defensive side of the ball. Whether you look at Robert Quinn, whether you look at Khalil Mack, whether you look at Roquan Smith, Eddie Goldman, whether you look at Jalen Johnson, Eddie Jackson, a lot of the core pieces still lie on the defensive side of the ball. And it's going to be this little flip-flop thing that the Bears have done, because they've went defense with Lovie Smith, then switched to offense with Mark Trestman. Then they went back to defense with John Fox and went to offense with Matt Nagy. And they're flip-flopping again, and they're going to go to defense with Matt Eberflus. Now, even though I still believe Matt Eberflus is going to be a really solid coach here in Chicago, I believe he can still keep this defense good. The defense core is still there. It's just on the offensive side of the ball, it is still a lot to be done. And his success, like I said, I believe will still depend on who they're going to get at the offensive coordinator spot and how can Justin Fields develop. And I believe how this offense is going to succeed will depend a lot about who they hire and who Matt Eberflus eventually trusts to come in and help develop Justin Fields and take his game another step so he can potentially reach that next level and potentially be the quarterback that the Bears drafted him to be, and drafted him to be the franchise quarterback going forward. So there's still a lot of work to be done with this Chicago Bears team and coaching staff as well. He still has to hire a new defensive coordinator, depending on what they're going to do with Sean Desai, and if Sean Desai actually decides to stay. So they do hire the main man in charge, and Matt Eberflus from the Indianapolis Colts. He was the defensive coordinator there ever since 2018. So I still believe this defense is going to remain better. It's going to be, even though it's a 4-3 over a 3-4, I still believe that the core pieces and the athletes that they have on this defense, it could still remain one of the better defenses in the NFL. It's just, I believe the coaching staff still needs a lot of work, and the offensive pieces and weapons and roster still needs a lot of work at this point in time. But Ryan Poles has got his man. He has got Matt Eberflus to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears. But you guys leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about the Bears' new hire at the head coach? And also leave this video a like, and also subscribe to the channel. That continues to help this channel to grow. APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great and excellent day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.